I will start with the presentation. First of all, I would like to thank to delegation for the European integration to Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also I would like to thank, for example, like Eurovision contest, 12 points goes to this amazing organization for British Council and Our Lady, Mrs. Selma Hadžihmetović, and also Mr. Emir Omeragić. Our group have 5 people, but now there is missing some people because they have any obligations. And the policy paper and the team for the policy paper, our group is improving business efficiency of public utility companies for the collection and removal waste. Now I will start with the presentation. Public utility companies for the waste collection and disposal have low collection rates for provision and their services. The problem of the waste management is one of the most common problems in all EU countries, and it's widely present now in Bosnia and Herzegovina. For background and context, I'll present this. The most important reason for the waste collection is protection of the environment and the health for the population. And now there's about 2,300 illegal dump sites across Bosnia and Herzegovina. Among the most important problems in this sector are high operating costs, insufficient financial resources for investment, insufficient coverage of the waste collection services, low level of the waste separation, waste disposal in unsanitary landfills, as well as undeveloped public awareness of solid waste management. In our policy paper, we have 4 target groups, which is based on the SWOT analysis. And the methodology we used in this policy paper are interviews, desk research, and analysis. The first group of these target groups is media, user of public utility services, Ministry of Internal Affairs, CURS, and international organizations. The second group is city and municipal councils, mayors of cities, cantonal levels of government, and management of public utilities companies. The other group is shareholders of public utility enterprises, private enterprises in the waste management sector, other public utility enterprises which could be connected to waste management issue, and the last one is environment protection agencies. And the last one, target groups, is communal services offices in city or municipal authorities, NGOs, and employees of public utilities companies. Now, the colleague Mirza start our presentation. Thank you.
Good day to everyone, and it's a pleasure to be finally able to present our policy papers on which we worked so hard on in the past 12 months. Let me start by saying something about our research. We have conducted a research based on the audit reports of the Supreme Audit Institution of Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. What we have deduced from those was that the billing for waste collection services is in the range from 56%, for example, in the public utility company of Teshen, and up to 89% in the public utility company of Hadžić, with the average billing rates of 77%. This implies that the public waste collection companies are operating with a significant burden of potential insolvency, which in turn makes doing business more difficult and ultimately translates into lower quality of services. Based on these findings, we have set out to define ways to ensure an increased billing rates for waste collection services. The first obstacle increasing billing levels was that these services are not something that a person could be restricted from using because of non-payment. Unlike some other utility services such as heating, water, gas, or electricity, waste collection cannot be discontinued because there is a non-payer in the area. We had to figure out other ways of enforcing payments, and that proved challenging. But first, we needed to make certain conclusions and define the issue. We have managed to define the issues and group them into 3 categories. First being the legal issues. The legal issues are following. There is no uniform legal framework in Bosnia and neither within Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We are talking about regulations that will regulate waste management in a more consistent and efficient way. The cantons have their own laws on communal activities, which differs, among other things, in the degree of elaboration of the price of communal services and supervision over the implementation of the law. Second is the billing and payments, which I've mentioned before, actually the lack of billing and payments, because they represent additional financial burden for the companies and that must pay for the disposal of every ton of waste. With financial burden comes lower quality of services because the companies cannot invest in new equipment and cannot increase the wages of the employees, which also influences their motivation. The lawsuits against non-payers of waste collection and disposal services are slow and take years due to the huge backlogs of cases in responsible courts. And the third part were the practical issues. What about the practical issues? Well, there's a lack of connected system of the register of service users, both citizens and legal entities. And the register of service users are mostly formed and supplemented manually. Part of the cantons in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina have communal wardens and communal inspection, while part of the cantons only have communal inspections, which act as supervision over the enforcement of the laws on waste management and its collection. In addition to these key findings, we made a past analysis of the issue where we attempted to identify the environment where a policy paper is to be put into action. The first part is the political aspect of the issue, and the problem is that there is an unwillingness to implement cross-national policies. There's no harmonized solutions within the country, and there's a chance to influence the policymakers to enact the law on communal services on an entity level. There are limited ways of enforcing payment of monthly fees, and the court procedures are lengthy and cost money. On the economic side of the issue, we have found that the price of communal services is considered inadequate by most companies. There's a room for more government spending in order to improve the efficiency, and the overall cost of doing business is on the rise, which is a threat. There's also a need for investments in mechanization to improve the very much needed efficiency. On the social spectrum, part of the spectrum, the public must be fined for unlawful disposal of waste. The collected fines would be used to subsidize public enterprises for waste management. And if there was some kind of incentive for recycling, like a monetary reward for bringing some waste to the recycling yards, it could be beneficial to improve the overall recycling ratio. On the technological side, we included the positive practices we have seen on our regional exchange, as well as in reading materials we have used while preparing this policy paper. In Podgorica, for example, mobile recycling stations are set up and can be moved around the city from time to time. This ensures that the recycling ratio is higher and that recycling is more available to the general public. In the Netherlands example, recycling is done for almost every kind of waste, which in turn also helps the citizens in doing their part in improving the efficiency of waste collection. And now on to my colleague Senad, who will talk about our recommendations and policy messages. Thank you.
Okay, in this part we identified possible policy options, and at the top of them is adopting the law in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina that will include, among other things, fines and restrictions. Unfortunately, fines and restrictions, but this is the way. Fines for those that dispose the waste improperly, so against the law, and restrictions to those that, so to say, are not willing to pay the bills, communal bills, at a regular basis. Secondly, harmonization between price of services and the business costs that public utility companies normally have and that are huge, but with special care. I emphasize this, with special care on vulnerable groups in regard to alleviate the pressure on them. Then we have waste selection and recycling. And as the last point, we have, in fact, we identified the option to collaborate with private companies, so private sector included. That will result with benefits for the sector, like new facilities, extended recycling possibilities as well as less pressure on public utility companies. So once again, as policy options, adopting the law, harmonization between price of services and business costs, then selection, recycling, and partnerships. In this part, in fact, we have concluded that the condition of all conditions, as we like to say, is legislation. It has to be harmonized, respectively unique throughout the country, and it is also necessary to implement other measures, stronger ones, in context of higher utility bills collection. We have some positive examples across the country, but unfortunately we do not have enough time to present them. You can find them in policy paper. And finally, with all these proposals, recommendations and options, of course, along with other, first of all, educational and informative activities and proposals, relevant institutions should tend to change people's awareness. We see it actually as that missing piece and final step to good waste management system and environmental protection as ultimate goal. Thank you very much.